Hello, and welcome to From Planning to Prosperity, the podcast where we spotlight wealth management professionals who are shaping the future of financial advice and client service. I'm your host, Stephen Palmer, and today I'm excited to feature Wendy Eldridge from Carnegie Investment Counsel. Before we dig in, I'd love to start with a little background. So, Wendy, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. What first drew you into the wealth management space?
Well, the funny story about that is that I have my undergraduate degree in marketing and I have an MBA with my concentration in marketing, and I've never had a job in marketing. So I'm one of those, I think it was a meant to be kind of thing that ultimately got me in the financial services industry.
That's fun. Well, marketing is everywhere, no matter what your role is. So I'm sure that you use your learned skills every day.
Absolutely. More so now than I ever have before, I have to say.
Yeah, that's good though, right? Because it's important. Let's set the stage for listeners, because many people may not know exactly like what the day-to-day looks like for a wealth advisor like yourself. So can you share a little bit about your role at Carnegie Investment Counsel and how it connects you to your overall vision for client service?
Absolutely. And I really think about the wealth and the financial services industry from several different lenses. I like to consider myself specifically a retirement plan advisor. So every single day I work with plan sponsors, companies, HR folks, CEOs, CFOs, owners of companies, as well as participants in those 401k plans. And so that's really where I concentrate my time. Although, again, in working with employees, the wealth management side certainly comes into play. But really, day in and day out, it's really ensuring that their retirement plan, whether it's a 401k, a 403b, a profit sharing, whatever it may be, is really the best plan that it can possibly be.
Nice. So you work with business owners to offer products for employees.
Correct. And
Nice.
what I really think about too, from at least an advisor perspective, is that there's certainly a differentiation between advisors, whether you sign on as a fiduciary or a non-fiduciary. So we and myself at Carnegie only sign on as fiduciaries to plans. So not so much selling products, but really, again, we are only compensated by our clients and ensuring that we're doing what's best for them, their participants, at all times.
Nice. Very nice. So what does a typical day look like? Like how do you balance client service, whether that be with the business owner or the end recipients? How do you balance that with your marketing growth mind ticking at you all day?
Well, Stephen, I've been in this industry for over 25 years, and I don't know if I have still balanced that and found the balance. So, but pretty much I can tell you one of the reasons that I am one of those lucky individuals who absolutely loves what they do. I wake up in the morning and I'm excited to do what I do. And I think a lot of that stems from every day is a little bit different. And so there's a new act called the Secure Act 2.0. It's actually not new, but it's some of those provisions and some of the things that are part of that are all coming to fruition. So plan sponsors, unfortunately, wear a lot of different hats today. And with that, unfortunately, there's a lot of liability that comes with maintaining a retirement plan. And so I really want to be that partner that they can trust day in and day out, that's really going to help guide them, make sure that they understand what their duties are from a fiduciary perspective, as well as then, from an employee perspective. I want every single participant to be on track to have a successful retirement. So that's really day in and day out my ultimate goals for both my companies as well as the participants I work with.
Very nice. Well, that's very cohesive, and I think you're lucky that you have that type of cohesiveness, because that's not always the case.
No, definitely isn't.
That's cool. Well, thanks for giving us that inside look. Wealth management is evolving quickly right now, and as you stated, it's a little bit stressful to keep on top of everything. Advisors like yourself are kind of in the middle of what's going on with compliance, technology, and all that fun stuff. So what shifts are you noticing that you have to handle and juggle right now today?
Well, I think that there's really two, at least that I am seeing coming into 2026. First and foremost, in the financial services industry, it is all about M&A. Pretty much every single day, I receive a notice of a firm getting acquired. And so we are seeing more and more of that. 2025 was an incredible year of this, and they're projecting 2026 will be even more. Cleveland, where I'm here in Cleveland, the state of Ohio is the eighth state in terms of the most acquisitions and mergers, and that's probably going to continue in 2026. So we're going to see a lot of consolidation in the financial industries kind of aspect. And number two, I would say, we hear this all the time, but it really is true, certainly in my industry, is AI and technology. It is something that you really, really have to understand, that you can't put your head in the sand anymore, and you have to take advantage of it from efficiencies, operations, as well as for me personally. My ultimate goal is to make this saving in retirement for this younger generation not so scary, and that they can do. And so it's really important to understand how you're going to connect with each of these generations. And, AI, technology, social media is all going to be at the forefront from that.
Yeah, great answer. I mean, you jumped right into the next question, so that's perfect.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I mean, even as a marketer, I tried to stick my head in the sand when the AI conversation really came to light. It's really about like a year ago when it really started powering up. But a couple of my own associations are, chasing that rabbit, so to speak. But yeah, I do realize the same as you. We can't ignore it. It's like saying 30 years ago that you're never going to buy a computer.
Or never use the internet, right?
Yeah, not happening. Not happening. So super insightful. So thanks for sharing that. So let's just flip the script a little bit here. So we love to celebrate wins after all that hard work that we do. So could you share a success story, either from a client perspective or an end user perspective, that you like to talk about?
Absolutely. So each year, personally for me, I kind of come up with a theme or a mission in terms of my plan sponsors and my participants. And so for 2025, my number one mission was to try to get every participant to have a beneficiary listed on their account. So very important. And unfortunately, in 2025, I really felt like it was back in the pandemic where I was receiving notification that a participant had passed away and they didn't have a beneficiary on file. And that is one of the worst things that you can possibly experience. And so 2025 was my mission for all my companies to try to get every participant to have that beneficiary on file. And so when we think about technology, but then we also think about, how we properly use technology, is across all of my plan sponsors, we obviously did a campaign to get these beneficiaries done. And part of that campaign was sending emails, making sure that, that the people are aware of this, posting things, doing campaigns. But then part of that also was an older generation that maybe doesn't like technology as much. And some of my plan sponsors having to go knock on the door, having to pick up a phone and actually call them to say, your beneficiary isn't there. Or most importantly, call Wendy and she can walk you through exactly how to do this. And across every single one of my clients, we made such an impact with those participants who didn't have beneficiaries on file. And I really, truly I'm more grateful to my plan sponsors because they did the hard lifting of that, but I'm really thrilled with the outcome.
That's great. That's a great story. And I know that's, just a sticky point for folks, right? Because it's easy to be lazy.
It's very easy to be lazy. And what's even worse, though, Stephen, is that when I have a situation of a participant who maybe had a beneficiary listed that no longer wants to have that beneficiary, like an ex-spouse,
right,
a parent maybe who's passed away. And so those situations where they forgot to change it can be devastating.
Yeah, nothing worse than your stuff going to the state.
No, absolutely.
Not good for your kin, whoever they may be.
Correct.
Do you have a story about your firm in general, like about your marketing stuff that you want to talk about that might be notable?
Yeah, I think again is going back to I am somewhat grateful to have this marketing background, even though I truly, haven't specifically used it. At least on my side of the house, and in what I've been doing is utilizing technology, utilizing AI to do marketing. And so I have actually trademarked the phrase hashtag 401ks rock. And so that is my
Nice.
trademark, which we utilize across all platforms. I have a TikTok, I have an Instagram, I have a Facebook account. And so you will find fun, light videos talking about retirement, trying to make it easy. We do weekly emails out to prospects, which I use, ChatGPT. I use Claude to prepare those emails. In the olden days, it would probably take me a good couple hours. Now it takes me 15 minutes to do these things. In putting together presentations, I do a draft, I put it into AI, and again, within about 20 minutes, things spit out. I use Canva. So I feel like I'm a grandma or grandpa sometimes when it comes to technology, but you do just have to take one step forward, and you have to know that you're not going to know everything to begin with, but you also have to understand that it's not just going to happen. You have to take the time to do this. And that's what I'm trying to do. I still feel I am, 0 to 10. I'm probably 0.5 in what I can be doing, but it's really important that again, as we talked about, you can't put your head in the sand when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah. Well, you rate yourself a 0.5 because you're driven. I'm sorry. That's a really great couple of stories, success stories, and keep at it. And I'm just going to add to, from a marketer's perspective, you're doing all the right things. You're leaning into the easiest tools to use that are the most accessible. You could do some of that stuff on your phone if you had to get stuck somewhere or whatever, and you were in the middle of one of those tasks. You could finish it up on your phone. Those are great platforms to learn into. Canva especially, I think, is super helpful. Yeah. It's underutilized probably by our generation. With all the great stories, there's some challenges in business every day. Are you working to solve anything specifically in your operation today that might be a little frustrating?
I think again, it comes down to, I feel like in 2025, we certainly saw a lot of changes within companies when it came to, hiring people. And so after the pandemic, we had a lot of issues with people leaving, people, changing jobs. And when you're running a retirement plan, consistency and process are really important. And so when you lose your payroll person, when you lose your HR person, it can be devastating. It can take a long time to get back up to speed. In addition, again, the lawsuits surrounding 401k plans, 403b plans are just so prevalent. And so there's so many, again, to-dos and responsibilities that are put upon plan sponsors that it can be difficult. And still a third of people in this country are not covered by a retirement plan. And that's a huge, huge problem. But on the flip side, again, plan sponsors have to make sure that they can do it and they can run it and they can afford it. So I think that hopefully there'll be future legislation to kind of, again, bridge those problems on both sides. And so that's what I kind of continue to fight for, and making sure that companies can put these things in place and have a trusted advisor, like myself and the folks at Carnegie. But it's still going to be a challenge, and it's going to continue to be a challenge until there's probably more legislation to help companies.
Yeah. That's a really good point and topic, and it's really good conversation for everybody to understand. I mean, anybody who's not a business owner thinks owning business is either scary or, really fun, which it can be both, but it is both.
Yeah.
There's definitely things to overcome. And I think specifically in finance, I agree with you 100% that more legislation is needed, good legislation, because some of the restrictions, prevent us from being able to do and say things that need to be done and said. And it is scary for people.
Yes.
You're buying public for sure.
Yes.
Well, thanks for sharing that. In relation to like growth and client metrics internally at your organization, like Is there something that you're focused on improving for 2026? I don't know if it's new client acquisition or new plan, sign ups.
Yep. So I would say, kind of from a corporate perspective, Carnegie is always looking at organic growth, but also in getting acquisitions. We made a large acquisition in January of last year, and that's kind of always on the forefront as well, to see who else fit us culturally, who would be a good fit for our company and what we do. So from a corporate side, always those two things. For me personally, it definitely is just trying to help as many companies and participants as I can. And so, you hopefully work with folks that are as passionate about what they're doing as hopefully those business owners and the folks that work at those companies. And so again, my number one mission is to really make sure that participants are utilizing this. It's a punch to the gut when I find an employee who has a wonderful match offered to them that isn't even taking advantage of it. And so,
Right.
Every single dollar that I can help a participant save for their future, it means something to me. And so even if I can get somebody to save $5, $10, hopefully if they can afford to do so, and we work through budgeting those things, that's really at the end of the day, my mission.
That's awesome. That's a great, honest goal. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure everybody would love to hear that. So let's look ahead. So every advisor or advisor company has a vision that they want to go to next. Where do you see your firm going in the next 6 to 12 months, either in relationships or business growth? I know we keep kind of beating this up a little bit, but I'm just trying to hone in on what your agency is really focused on.
Yeah, well, and so every kind of financial services company has really different pretty much practices or lines that they focus on. At Carnegie, we only have really three major practices. And so it's the retirement plan practice, it's nonprofits and endowments, and then it's individual wealth. And so that's it. We don't sell, health insurance. We don't sell property and casualty insurance. And so, going back to this financial services industry, the consolidation that's happening, it's really trying to continue to keep up. And if you are not growing, whether it's organically or whether, again, it's acquiring, you're going to be left behind, and you probably are going to be acquired. So it's really that constant trying to understand where we're trying to get to. In addition, really at Carnegie, what else is very important to us and is important to me is bringing up this next generation of advisors. Every day, advisors are retiring, and there aren't enough, new advisors coming in to replace them. And so a lot of these younger folks think the financial services world is scary. They look at women in this industry, and it can be tough. Certainly years ago, it was very, very tough. And so I think we really have to focus not only at Carnegie as well as myself, trying to be a mentor and advocate certainly to younger women who want to come into this industry, but across the board, we have to be focusing in on that.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good thing to be concerned about. All business owners and big businesses have been affected by change like that, like all these people coming into retirement age, coupled with the pandemic situation that kind of just threw a bunch of daggers into everything.
It did. I mean, it just put, the world on its top. So I think we're still trying to recover from that. I also believe that, things are certainly changed. We can go down so many rabbit holes when we talk about, working from home and working remotely, back to the office. I mean, there's just so many things that come into play with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's exciting. Those are good goals to be working on. This has been a super valuable conversation, Wendy. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you.